Well, in your situation, I mean, you're
with Owa, and I'll get into this in a little bit. Joey and I, we recapped the Ravens game. The Ravens were up 21. Burrow gave the Bengals a 10-7, got injured on his touchdown throw to Mixon. He's out for the year. The Ravens are not going to have Mark Andrews at tight. The Browns aren't going to have Nick John Watson or Jack Conklin. And the Steelers aren't going to have Cole Holcomb or Quan Alexander the rest of the year. They're going to be starting Mark Robinson, their 2022 collegiate starts. So games on tape, but at the same ran a 4.65. Don't know how that full year is going to translate. Depth at linebacker, Keanu Neal and Minka are in, and Montravius Adams, the guy who allows you to play Benton 2-3 downs instead of all 4 downs, also out on Sunday. So while those injuries, Highsmith 90% ups like they did against Green Bay, and they're backup edge rushers, and it looks like Highsmith and Watt are gassed at the end of the. It's going to work in Cleveland's favor. So
here's the stat that I came across, but at the combine last year, this is where it took some of these injuries for the Steelers in the back end. George Hudson, Josh Allen for the back combine 52. Since that's been recorded, that's like 2011. So if he gets there, I mean, the backups aren't going to have the same reaction time as, somebody like that. So
they still have their starting strong safety, Joey.
And their game plan is middle field or something like that, especially if the scenario you said comes to pass, where especially
I think it's intentionally did that on purpose. Their edge rushers for the Browns because they're back up to Watt and High at least snaps. So I think the Steelers intentionally play. I think the Steelers intentionally Watt and Highsmith every down against the Pack, and more energized when the Steelers did that on purpose.
But my concern for the Steelers situation is because of the
save this conversation for later. The game on Amazon Prime and the Watson injury. Yo, Joey, I'm trying to make sure we stay on topic. Out my keyboard and I'll start typing code. I know that irritates you. So I'm just and I got this microphone. I've got a lot of defensive. What did you say about the Watson injury? Talk about the Burrow injury, the Mark Andrews injury. You know what? I'll quickly go over the injury reports because the Ravens just absolutely dominated this second half. Burrow went out. The Ravens just went roadkill mode. It was 20 halftime, and then it was 27-13 after quarters of play. Tucker made 2 field goals, and Cincinnati was able to generate any points with Browning until the final drive. So I'm looking at I'll type in Mark. because I think it's a pretty severe injury with Andrews. I would argue Andrews is severe than Burrow's. It might be. I think Andrews' injury might be. It could. I don't know if it's going to be career-ending, but it sounded. He suffered a. I'm trying to get the information from where. Go into your job interview, folks. A cracked fibula ligament. It's a crack. Could career ending if he does not come back full health, because that is pretty bad. I would argue that's more severe than Burrow's.
I saw the play that happened. He's fortunate it's cracked because you can repair something. Even there, that is not something that's career ending. Just painful back from because that's a big. Now, if it was a completely different, or if it was a compound crack, that but a straight fracture, the crack in the.
All right.
So that's big news for him because that means it could have been a lot more. So he's lucky there that it wasn't a horse meeting.
The Bengal Wire's tweeting that the chance donated to Joe Burrow's foundation and charity after Burrow's season-ending injury by the Chiefs. And the Bengals, very classy move by the Chiefs, but that is, I'm not going to go in.
Did that with the Nick Chubb Foundation. It's really classy by the NFL. They're getting behind these guys, you know, in ways that. So I got incredibly funny, you know. So congratulations.
Yep, and Joe Burrow had something over his hand heading into the game. The NFL's going to investigate that because Burrow had something over his hand before the game. So,
and that, I mean, once people started seeing that, I started reading that because of that wrong, but Mark before that they weren't telling us or whatever conspiracy now was the thing on Burrow's hand. But guys, come on, not all injuries are conspiracy. He keeps injuries. But okay. Well, yeah.
all right, we'll get to the Deshaun Watson. Our audience has been patiently waiting for the defensive end like ball. But yeah, Barr was my player of the game, 3 total yards, had 264 through the air, 554 on the ground, 318 yards, 2 touchdowns.
I'm going to be with the Deshaun Watson injury. It's the play that they think it happened on. Period. What he did, he played the second half with a broken fracture that happened. A piece of bone coming out of the joint socket. I'm putting this as simple as I can. Army jargon. The bone came off there. It was a dislocated shoulder. The joint popped out. But what happened was a day off. It came off. And when the bone, so this is bad for
Fortunate for Deshaun Watson, but I was high on DTR. Got at the East West Shrine Bowl. I even on recap because he went 14 for 14 in the second half, as you described. He did have the intercept early. Decision, and it was not an easy.
The Ravens defensive back because their receiver
play the Chargers before the bye. Ravens' schedule is brutal. They get the Browns, go 9-8. The are currently at 10 based on projections, but the Bills and Dolphins 12-5. That's assuming the Bills win out. If they lose a single game from this point, Miami's division, not right now, even be the last wild card. So that's kind of like. In the NFC, you've got 9-1 Eagles at 2, Lions.
Be 100% is going to tell us probably 90% of who's going to be in the playoffs this week, because we're going to see who the best teams are. I mean, this is a big week for Mago.
Week might be a bigger for. I mean, this building both games, the Black Friday game, side. I would argue that the Patriots and what be the game decides who gets the Caleb Williams pick. I would argue that next week's match implications in this, but I think Eagles is a game of the year candidate. Regardless of how much you dislike or disagree with that statement, it's a game of the year candidate because of the talent on both teams and the fact that you got a 1-loss facing a 2-loss team. That's why it's the game of the week. You can't dispute that.
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to argue that that could be the game of the year. I mean, and you may be right.
It's just not. The reason you're trying to debate me on this is because it's 10 teams, the 10 volume of it. So you play that's for me behind Eagles. We put Mahomes on the cover of Bracketopia this week. On that, I'm
or the pass rusher in the best shape. I've worked with some Florida State guys there, and anybody who has been in any Florida State athletic position, they're ripped, they're in great shape. So he's not only one of the best with the highest potential, but
the guy that took this full teams and triple teams in college was Myles Garrett. Do I think Burst is as good as Garrett was coming out of Texas A&M? No. I think I had a 97 out of 99 on Garrett, who was drafted. I got a 90 Burst at the moment. So I have him graded slightly below Garrett, but to enter blue chip territory. Because the rip and swim moves are there. The consistency is there, and I think Burst is a top 10 pick. He could be a top 5 pick depending on who's picking in the top 5 as well. because the skill sets there, it's like so
players, just unfinished product. Great athlete, has all these basic stats, but I think he has a ton of potential. I don't think he's good far because he's the only guy up for anything. They just don't. It's nothing yourself. It's just the way they're coached. Same thing with DCR. You just buy unfinished product. I think it's the same thing here. We love DCR. I like this guy. You like this guy. I think it's the same. I think we're looking at the same thing. A lot of talent, a lot of production, a lot of athleticism, more upside. It just doesn't happen.
better than Jalen. I probably expect than Jalen UCLA and my draft year. I think Phillips, he's more durable than Phillips. He's more consistent than Phillips was. So that's not a knock on Phillips, okay? Phillips has had a resurgence these past 2 years. He's had sort of a resurgence after a rough rookie season. So, I say that's yep. My third and final first round of end Malone was against both Olu Fashanu and Joe Alt. He got a sack against Alt. He got a sack against Blake Fish. I have JT Tuimoloau out, Ohio State defensive end, in my first round right now. He's the last 43 defensive end in my first round. There's rush. We're going to be in the outside that have clear-cut first-round grades. As far as defensive end go, a lot to and Tuimoloau. I think those are the three guys who have the best chance of cracking day one. They're still talented players. I had 12 edge rushers with starter potential, which is less than what I had a year ago, but I think you can get good edge rushers in rounds through bit in this class. So seen his 2023 tape. I have him in the back end. I think I have him in the 20s. I'm in the 20s. I don't have him in the depends.
It's more of a thing of if there's a team in the mid first round, either he'll go there, but I just can't going a little bit late. So we're not that far off each other on that stuff.
Quickly. I'm hoping it does. But yeah, Kalen King, Dallas Turner. I had Dallas Turner, the Rams. This is from October. I had Tui Malo out of the Colts at 20 to pair with Kwity Paye.
If you're talking about the third or fourth best pass rusher in the draft, I think any of the five could go in the first round potentially. But so I mean, it's about the same range that we had them.
Yep.
I mean, so I think we're kind of on the same page, just the same paragraph.
Yeah, and 20 is a good spot. The Colts do need a defensive end next to they did bring in Samson Ekubom on like a 1 or 2 year deal, but somebody to go next to Kwity Paye would help. Deo Odiengbo did step up though in the game in Germany, so maybe that's not as big of a need now. But I think if the right guy is there, you have to at least explore the idea of taking another pass rusher. Why I went with Tui Malo.
I went to Brown pregame, and he said that Germany game hurt his eyes. It hurt his eyes to watch. You're talking about the one from last week, right?
The Colts Patriots game. That was.
Yeah.
I complain about their eyes, Joey, because I still have redness in my eye from last year. Swelling near the cornea is completely gone. I promise you, you can make all the rants and complaints of people's eyes. Until then, please refrain from doing so. All right.
I apologize.
Thank you. My top second round edge rusher is Wes actually put in the late first round. It's Braylon Price. I do think he can into the first. Braylon Trice. I think on with it, but I have him in round one. And he's so I figured number
On the list, the other three guys.
break 3 pounds. TBS Sports, the Texans, second pick, 4. Jonathan Greener and Jerry, you both USAs. Why you got mock Texans? They're both US edge rusher. That's the thought. Texans pick the Browns, which would be the Sean. I'm not sure you take. I like him up 50 tops. Not sure I would take that. Wow.
For me, Right.
A while ago, they switched it over 3 years. So 3 defense is for that is um first Oregon game didn't have a recollection of it. So ugly. They lost Washington, Utah 30. Believe me, I've got the numbers for all the draft prospects on Washington and Oregon typed. But at the same time, Oregon's got another edge rusher who I think is more of a situational edge in the NFL, but we'll get to him later in the show. But Tracy Porter is high on Dorless. So just wanted to throw that out there because he messaged me about Dorless. Okay, so number one, nice job by Washington's left tackle. We talked about him a few weeks ago, neutralizing Jordan Burch. Burch is number one on Oregon. He's the other edge rusher we'll get to later in the rankings. And I'll see.
Oh, I remember him.
1 is Burch and 3 is Dorless. So, yeah, 3 on Oregon is Dorless. Well, Burch has basically been a situational player this year, whereas Dorless has been an every down guy. The Dorback hurry off throw that Penix incomplete. Nice play. I could see why Tracy likes this guy. Really pressure to get by Washington. Really does fifth grade. Player number 6, my second round player is Landon Jackson, defensive end, Arkansas. He had 3.5 sacks against Alabama. Against, and you know, he did 3.5 signature game. Landon Jackson on the second round moment. Seen him in Arkansas.
I think but good job getting around. With that, and not just in the limited games I've seen.
I only saw one, and it was I had kind of Notre Dame for the youth. Daniel Kelly wanted film of Colorado, Utah. The fact that I felt out so much that I wasn't stressed at them. I was stressed at myself. I was myself. I decided to go to Olive Garden. You know, him in the third. And my other third rusher is Jonah Ellis. But after the, because what's sad is I actually put Jonah Ellis top 5 just after Oregon's 35 common sense not I still I really like see so he could be a third round pick. Jordan Ellis from Utah. Have you seen either Jack Sawyer from Ohio State or Jordan Ellis from Utah?
I did watch bits and pieces. Utah game. have to be on my he needs to have that. I think he needs maybe kind of warrior, a veteran. And how you do work. And he got that.
Guys, I have outside of Tui to maybe Trice. I have a Trice right like 9, slightly below. So maybe I do think guys in this day one starters, but guys have ceiling starters, not players. Third round guys prospects in high end starters, and then you get into the fourth round, the to above average. I have 4 projects may surprise you, but I'm my top 4th round defensive. The Colorado. Mohamed Kamara really stood. Maybe Colorado. Was a senior.
The offensive and defensive line more than often, but I was looking somewhere else. I was looking at the defensive backs and such.
You were looking. They told me about their safety, but their safety's a junior. He ended up coming there. Why I put in on Kamara. But yeah, Kamara for me really impressed me. I would argue after Torrey Horton, Kamara's the Colorado State's best player. I really like what he did on tape. And I've seen Colorado State against now, so I already State. It's already up on Rumble. Okay, here's a list of the games. If you got the draft, if you type in Utopia, here's a list of all the games I have up. I have San Jose State versus USC, 42 views. I've got North Carolina versus South Carolina, 30 views. Texas, Alabama, 63 views. I've almost got every game film like every individual game film from Texas, Alabama up on YouTube as well. I've got Colorado State versus Colorado, Ohio State versus Notre Dame versus Duke, Oklahoma versus Texas, Oregon versus Washington, Ohio State versus Penn State. I've got LSU versus Alabama, and I've got Oregon versus Utah, and I've got Ole Miss versus Georgia. I uploaded that like 12 hours ago. That already has 48 views. And I've been getting some requests saying, you got to put Bowers up now. You can't wait until you're done with Kyrie Jackson and Jaden Daniels. We want Bowers because Bowers is ranked so high on boards and it's first game back from an injury. I don't blame our fans for thinking that. I welcome criticism, guys. It's like, and I don't blame you for wanting Bowers now on the YouTube channel. I don't blame you. The viewership for that game is already that high. It's like, yeah, I mean, Kamara is one of the players in the Colorado State that's up on Rumble. But that's probably one player I may post on YouTube before I create a playlist for Colorado State versus Colorado. Because Kamara is that good. And Colorado State does have another fourth round defense, Ashton Gillette. 10 sacks. Remember Yabi for the Buccaneers, and they also had the guy that got picked by the Jaguars. I think because remember there were 2 edge rushers on Louisville last year that got drafted.
Yeah. I mean, I was higher on those 2 edge rushers from Louisville last year. It's like
Abdullah got drafted by the Jaguars, and Yaya Diaby got drafted by the Buccaneers. You know, Ashton Gillette comes in, takes over for those guys. Louisville only has 1 loss in the year, and Ashton Gillette's a big reason why Louisville's in position to make the ACC championship. It's Ashton Gillette, not Ashton Gillette. It's Gillette, or is it Gillette? I don't know. Like, I'm seeing Gillette. I'm seeing Gillette. I'm kind of confused. Okay, Google says it's Gillette, so I'm going to have to go back into my site and type that. The other 2 fourth-round defensive ends that I'm high on. Oh, I did type Gillette. I just pronounced his name. So Ashton Gillette, 10 sacks at Louisville. A really good year this year. I mean, he had 6 sacks as a rotational edge rusher to Diaby and Yasir Abdullah. Yeah, he had 6 sacks as a substitute edge rusher to Abdullah and Diaby last year, and 7 tackles for a loss. And, you know, I kind of want to see what he's done this year in terms of his sack. So, in terms of sacks, he had 1 sack against Murray State. He had 3 sacks against Boston College, 1 sack against North Carolina State. Did he have that? Did he get by Anthony Belton, the NC State left tackle, when he got the sack? 1.5 sacks against Notre Dame. Okay, that's somewhat impressive considering Notre Dame's tackle room. 2 sacks against Duke. Was Graham Barton playing back from his injury? Because Barton did miss the Notre Dame game. Barton back from his injury when he had those 2 sacks, and 1.5 sacks against Virginia. Those are some things we got to look at when assessing this player, because it's like, okay, the 2 sacks against Duke, if Barton's playing, and the 1.5 sacks against Notre Dame, that's actually somewhat impressive for Ashton Gillette. I get why you're not as impressed with him, but, you know, he's one of these players we're going to have to go back and look at. And another ACC player on my rankings after Gillette is Jashin Davis, edge rusher for Wake Forest. He's a defensive end. He's got the size, the body, listed as the star player in the Wake Forest season preview in Athlon Sports Magazine. So I figured we'll put him in the 4th round. I do think he has potential to develop into a starter, but he's extremely raw. He may need 1 or 2 years of development. But again, comes in, takes over for Boogie Basham, and Wake Forest just continues to churn out talent on this defensive line, Joey. Last year it was Kobe Turner. Kobe, who became a day 1 starter right out of the gate, went to a team that ran a 34 defense that was going to utilize his skill set. You know, he gets to play with Aaron Donald. So it's like that's a great situation for Kobe Turner. Now, as far as the Wake Forest edge rusher goes, I'll get his name on the screen because I know it's at the point where after you get past the first 8 or 10 players, you have to wait until the list reloads in order to like memorize the names. You know what I'm saying, Joey? You can relate to that sometimes, not all the time.
Oh yeah. Not sometimes. I can relate to that all the time.
Jasheen Davis, Wake Forest. Yeah. Jasheen Davis, Wake Forest edge rusher. Have you seen him this season? Or last season, Jasheen Davis.
Again, that was another game that was just on my TV that I.
He's number 30 on Wake Forest.
Last year,
He's number 30 on Wake Forest. Yeah, he was 30 on Wake Forest last year.
Good player last year. I liked him last year. From what I saw, didn't regret any. So, still nice player. Still basically everything I said about him last year.
Okay, he has 7.5 sacks and 15 tackles for a loss. It's a thing. Davis has a tackle for a tackle every single game. 3-2-5 has at least a half a tackle for a loss in every single in this. So not a single team in the country was able to do that, Joey. So that says a lot about him. And it's why I think he can develop into an NFL starter.
Because I just downloaded the Rumble app and followed Draft Utopia.
Thank you.
I encourage everybody else that's listening to do the same. You know, I did it. You can do it. It took me about 30 seconds. Really quick, really easy. Few clicks, put in your birthday, boom, you're good to go. You got all the games, everything you need to know, right there, right on the Draft Utopia.
Yeah, I know James Madison plays Appalachian State today. That's where game day's at. But I could try to get Washington, Oregon State. That's the other game we'll preview later in the show, and it's a big game in terms of Pac-12 ramifications and Pac-12 stakes. And we'll discuss that later tonight. And I do appreciate Joey downloading and subscribing to Rumble. And I appreciate anybody who takes the time to invest in our organization and Draft Utopia. So you look at where we got with Washington's second edge rusher is Zion Tupuola Fatuai, left end number 4. So that's the last player I have a starter on. Just some of these backup players in rounds 5 through 7. But if he didn't have so many medical concerns, I think he'd be a day 2 pick because he has flashes of day 2 tape. But he does have an injury history. He does have some medicals, and I think that drops into the 4th round. There is potential for him to develop into a starter, but the medicals are really the big reason why I have him where I have him.
Yeah, and let's be honest. You know, people may be wondering why Chris, you asked me about certain injuries and such. And it's like, because, and then I'll go into them because I have to look this stuff up because there's a running joke at work on the Lego man. I get hit wrong, I'm falling apart. I'm just going to burst in arms and legs going separate ways, everything. You know, I've been beat up. I've looked up these injuries because some point down the line, I probably had something similar. Maybe not the exact injury, but I've beaten myself up pretty good. So, if that's why if Chris needs information about an injury, I'm pretty much trying to figure out what it is, or know right off the top of my head at least what to look for, because I have something around that area. It's not difficult to find. There's some muscle I've torn or pulled or something else in there. So, yeah, it's like if you need the injury statuses, I can normally find it. And that's why it's so concerning to me with some of the injuries. And if I say I'm not concerned about them, there's a reason I'm not concerned about them. But if I'm concerned about them, and this is what you really look at, is that, but status is in question, not because of one injury, but because of a continuous set of injuries. That's where the concerning part comes in, and that's why Chris Cross won his fight.
Yep. And then we get to round 5, and top defensive end on the board, my number 13 defensive end, Jordan Birch. Jordan Birch is my number 1 fifth-round prospect. If he was more of an every down player, he'd be a little bit higher on my list. But against Utah, where Oregon won 35-6, he came in off the bench and was mainly utilized as a situational pass rusher. That's why I'm a little bit lower on him, because I think you could make an argument for Birch being a little higher on this list, but because he was utilized as a situational pass rusher, that's kind of why I have him in the 5th round. But I think he's a high-end backup.
I'm disappointed in Birch because I know I watched a couple Oregon games last year, and I know he started a couple games.
He did.
So to have him coming off the bench completely as a situational pass rusher, I am really disappointed in him because I know he's got the ability to be an every down starter. So I want to know, and I'm sure this is going to come out during draft season. And I'm sure it's going to come out. I'm disappointed in him
because most of the draft simulators have him in the 4th round right now, but what they're not looking at is the fact that he came off the bench in Oregon's 35-6 win over Utah. So he was only used situationally. So that's why I'm lower on him than most right now. But I still think he's going to get picked by a team. And that's a fair reason.
I know the ability he has, and there is something there that we're missing, and that's what I want to know, is why he's coming off bench.
Yep.
Because he should not be. There's something there.
We only have 20 defensive ends today, but next week or the next podcast when Joey's available, assuming he has plans next week, defensive tackle rankings, it'll be the top 25 defensive tackles. Yeah, that's how many defensive tackles. I mean, NFL Mock Draft Database had 35 defensive linemen. I think PFN had 25 to 30 defensive tackles in their rankings. I ended up with 25 in mine, but it was different. It's an interesting position. I would name.
That is good on you because, and that shows the depth of the defensive tackles in this draft. Because I think last year you only had 15.
I think last year I had 20. I had 20 last year. I had I had 20 last year, but I think I only had like 9 or 10 graded as starters.
Yeah, I think you have more this year, don't you?
Yeah, I think this is a draft where you can get a starting defensive tackle in rounds 1 through 5, actually, and you can get a high-end backup in rounds 6 and 7. That's how deep the defensive tackle group is this year.
Yeah, this is a good year for defensive tackle. You need a defensive tackle. This year's the year to draft them. But back to the defensive end rankings, we still got a few more to go there.
Yep, Missouri. The Missouri edge rusher. His name showed up on the screen for a second, and then it didn't. It's Darius Robinson, edge rusher for Missouri. He's number 6, the defensive end on Missouri. And I know he complimented Isaiah McGuire last year before the Browns. There was my Mr. Relevant when I did my mock draft. I didn't think he'd get picked as high as he did, but I don't really have much of an issue with him going where he did because I do think his ceiling's higher than Alex Wright's. But at the same time, I view McGuire as a high-end backup. Darius Richardson, another Missouri edge rusher, I view as a high-end backup. I know Thomas Coburn's a huge Missouri fan. I tried to get some intel on him, but he hasn't really watched him enough this year to evaluate. But I do think Darius Robinson is a player worth keeping an eye on, as he's my number 14 defensive end.
I like Robinson. I was looking for McGuire last year, and I saw Robinson there. I actually mistook, because this was the first time I've seen Robinson, and he and McGuire had, I actually mistook Robinson for McGuire on a couple of pass rushes. And he's got talent. He does. And I really like what I saw from him in my limited shows from him. I was a fan, instant fan. McGuire probably went because he was a beast, but he was wrong. And, and I think that's going to be hold true here, is that he's going to be in his wrong. He's probably going to go in the 4th or 5th round, but he's a beast of a pass rusher. Same as McGuire, but he's going to go later because he is a bit raw. He's going to need some seasoning. He's going to need to sit a little bit behind some of the veterans, learn the ins and outs. So when he gets his shot, I think the same thing with McGuire is it might take McGuire a year or two. I think the same thing goes here. It might take him a year or two, but I think when they hit their stride, they're going to go. And I think Ole Miss has something here, and I think any team that drafts him is going to be really happy with that draft pick.
Yeah.
Because the dude, he's got it. He just doesn't have it as often as you would like.
Yep.
He's going to need to, we're going to have to simmer him down and let him sit, let him learn. But they're going to have something good.
Yep.
I like him. I'm a fan. I think everybody else will be once they watch him as well.
Tyler Barron, defensive end, Tennessee, came in at number 15. He's the final 5th round player on my rankings. I don't think he's as explosive as a year ago for Tennessee. A guy that you can take a flyer on in the 5th round if you really need that 43 defensive end.
Yeah, he's a nice rusher. He has some moves to him. I mean, he's good. Like you said, I really like Byron Young, but I didn't think he was as good as Young. But I haven't seen Tennessee this year, so I don't know what progress.
I saw Tennessee against Florida, and I saw Tennessee against Missouri. Whenever I watch Tennessee, they always get blown out. I think Tennessee plays Georgia this week, but at 3:30 on CBS. But I'm probably not going to watch that game because Tennessee needs a signature win. It still won't matter. They still won't get in the playoff, even if they were to upset Georgia.
Signature winning, you say that right before Georgia when they're both going to get their passes.
Number 6. Xavier Thomas, defensive end, Clemson. This is a guy who was actually graded higher than Micah Parsons coming out. He was actually when Micah were in school, and Clemson's other edge rusher. But I do think he could be a late round pick this year. I have a 6th round grade on Xavier Thomas. I think
player. Purpose of you and Kirk. I followed him just spottingly here and there. He's got talent. He's got talent. Okay, but the thing is, he's raw. Even this year, I mean, I don't know how he can be as raw as he is when you're as highly touted as he was. pick, amazing and everything. But when he plays, you're like, he leaves so much to be desired. He leaves so much on the field.
Yep.
You see the flashes, and you're going to be like, that's what I was talking about. And then for the next 4 series, you'll be like, where the hell is he? What do you do? What? For the rest of the game, it's like, why? I mean, he says, but how the hell can you be when you had this much experience and you're this high in college? That's what frustrates me. If he's not putting in the work, if he's looking at his natural athletic ability, what's going on there? You know, that's what frustrates me. So 6th round, I think they're going to take a fire on in the 4th or 5th, based on what he could be and probably what he should be. But as for what he is 6 or 7 round prospect. So, I mean, if you come across a team with some defensive ends that are established and he's not going to get much playing time, take a flyer, you might be able to catch him on a practice squad and figure out what's wrong with him. Because he should be a lot better than he is. And I think you'll agree with me on that.
I agree with that.
He should be in the 60 depth.
I mean, he was ranked ahead of Micah Parsons coming out of high school. He should be a lot higher than where he currently is. But I do think he will get picked by somebody in the 6th round.
So do I.
Yep, I'm just going through this because there's a small school player on this list. This could be a stump the truck candidate for NFL Network this year. I mean, this could really be a stump the truck candidate.
Well, you know how NFL Network loves those guys.
Yes, this is a Tennessee. This is a pass rusher on Tennessee State. Just trying to find out the jersey number, the name, and the jersey number because it's Terrell Smith. But I'm looking and I don't see a Terrell Smith on the team website, so I'm wondering if it's Terrell Allen instead of okay. I gotta retype that. I'll be back. Well, who was getting quarterbacks for Tennessee State, 24 and a half, and he has 14 and a half sacks. So, yeah, Gardner Webb and Notre Dame, and most of his sacks have came against weak. He got some impressed me, winning some of the one-on-one. Terrell Allen, number 9. Have a look at him. The Tennessee State is so Terrell Allen's one of these guys that I could and just shooting up for system.
And that doesn't surprise me. Opportunities, but Tennessee State holds athletes at it's almost like school guys a year that just jump off the floor. Sometimes it's a hit. Most on the NFL. Sometimes one of those guys
for a loss, 14 and a half sacks, and he had good against Notre Dame. So it's, even though he didn't get a sack, Notre Dame added in the rankings. And I'm just ashamed that some of these other simulators don't have him in the rankings at all. It's like some of these draft simulators don't even have the guy in their rankings, even though I think he deserves to be there.
Because he always has on one of these teams that gets some type of playing time from Tennessee State. maybe a situational pass rusher or a number 5 receiver or something. But there's always been a Tennessee State just kind of floating around. So not to have them in your ranking, it's going to be negligent of us not to look at them, and it's negligent of the simulators not to have those guys in there because
and if you
don't look at them.
If your invite to the Senior Bowl gets denied, go to the Shrine Bowl, go to the HBCU Bowl, go to the Hula Bowl that Damone Talbot from NFL Draft Diamonds hosts. Go to one of those bowl games because it's like Caleb Murphy. He had 25 and a half sacks and 34 tackles for a loss at Ferris State, the best team in Division II. Went undrafted, even though he interviewed exceptionally well. Made the Tennessee Titans final roster. So the Titans picked him up, and he actually made the final roster. That's why you never know what could end up happening if you take one of the small school guys late. It could end up working out. You're going to see. Caleb Murphy State's one of those players who really did well in the final roster, so you can't really with the thought process for the Titans gambling on him. Next, last and Oklahoma. God, he is Texas, but he did make some nice plays. I think he's a decent late round pick. And then number 19 and 20, we have two small school for Albany and William and Mary round this list. Because I know double-digit sacks, and PFN's top FCS William and Mary. So I did 3 FCS players for the Deans. So, tackle named Thor. So, Griffith of Harvard. Thor Griffith of Harvard might have the best name outside of Dante Corleone. I'm not saying those are the top 2 defensive tackles. I'm saying those are the top 2 names in terms of the most badass name for a defensive tackle prospect. If we're ranking the prospects just based on what defensive tackles have the best names in the draft, Dante Corleone is 1 and Thor Griffith is 2. I don't think there's any debating that. I think we're just ranking on name alone. Those are the 2 best names. But Albany's Anton Junkaj is my number 19 defensive end, and Nate Lynn from William and Mary is my number 20 defensive end. Have you seen either one of those guys, and you got any input, anything you want to add before we get to some other segments on the show?
Not related to. I have not seen a William and Mary game this year. They've only got one last year, so I do not have anything on either of them.
I'm guessing you're semi-impressed with the fact that I was able to find 3 FCS players to my defense, because usually I only get 1 or 2. Yeah, that's fair enough. All right, so we'll get into the mid-season report cards now. We've got the Patriots, we've got the Falcons, we've got the Colts, and we got the Saints. So we'll get into that right now. And yeah, I don't know why the screen keeps turning off, but it's like screen, you need to stay on. Like, I know Restream, the screen keeps turning off and off. Spot track New England Patriots. So yeah, we're gonna go to the New England Patriots here, and I forgot to type in the Patriots folder. Okay, there we go. That should work. But yeah, we're just waiting for the Patriots thing to. The Patriots were just a mess. I watched that game in Germany. I mean, that game. If you saw that game, I mean, that game literally made Rob Kraft want to drink coffee with mayonnaise. That's how brutal that game was.
Yeah, that was not a good game. I heard that after that game, it was that Robert Kraft was considering firing Bill Belichick.
Honestly, if
after that game.
Honestly, if the Patriots lose the Giants, because the Patriots have a bye week in Week 11, but next week the Patriots go to New York to take on the Giants in Week 12. And Tyrod Taylor is not eligible to return from IR until Week 13. So if Mac Jones loses to Tommy DeVito, I don't think Belichick's finishing the season. I think he gets fired then and there in New York against the team he was the longtime coordinator of.
Yeah, and that doesn't, because I heard after last week's game that Kraft was so fed up after that game that he was rumbling.
Because it's like the Patriots, even Tom is probably the worst quarterback to enter the NFL since Tim Boyle. Okay, and it's like if you lose to him, you gotta fire Belichick. I'm sorry, there's too much talent on this team.
I have to disagree with you. It's like if you see PJ Walker play, oh my god, it's like
No. Tommy DeVito was god awful at the Shrine Bowl in Vegas. He couldn't even beat out Mason Rudolph for the third string job on Pittsburgh. And he was undrafted and the Steelers signed him. He couldn't even beat out Mason Rudolph. So, yes, Tommy DeVito.
Really debating on the worst quarterback in the NFL?
Yes. I think Tommy DeVito is the worst quarterback. I just do. PJ Walker had some decent moments for Carolina and Chicago, and now it's like, yeah, he's been awful with the Browns, but he's had decent moments with other teams, so he's not the worst. He's at the bottom of the food chain. Not the worst quarterback, but near the bottom of the food chain.
18 turnovers for PJ Walker in his career. That is
Tommy DeVito.
So yeah, I want to see the stats versus that. You know,
Tommy DeVito. Tommy DeVito has 3 touchdowns and 3 interceptions in 2 starts. He had 175 yards against the Raiders, 86 yards against the Cowboys. He had -1 yards against the Jets. He came in for Daniel and had 1 passing yards.
I think my buddy Brian was right when he said this is probably the worst in the history of the NFL when it comes to backup quarterbacks.
How do you finish with negative passing yards? Like, you come in as a backup and you finish with negative passing yards. -1 passing yards. So, yeah. That's why I say DeVito is worse than Walker. I saw him at the Shrine Bowl. I mean, Walker was able to win some games with Carolina. I'm not saying he's good, but he was able to win some games, which is why he's still in the league. But, you know, as far as the Patriots go, I think Mac Jones has lost the locker room. Bailey Zappi might end up starting. We might get Bailey Zappi versus Tommy DeVito. Or we could get Will Greer, because Belichick's also considering Will Greer if they bench Mac Jones. He may go with Will Greer over Bailey Zappi. So we could get a Will Greer-Tommy DeVito matchup next week in New York. And I see why you said, oh, God, because that is a brutal matchup. I don't care if you're a Patriots fan like me or a Giants fan like Brian Bayless or 5 Point Vids or Jeff Scholl, my former Rant Sports colleague who covered the Giants when I covered the Patriots. It's like, that is an awful matchup, regardless of what team you're rooting for in that Patriot-Giants game. Will Greer versus Tommy DeVito. It's like, I mean, I don't even think I could get through that game sober if I were a Patriot fan. I mean, and that says a lot because I try to keep drinking to a minimum, even though it is fun to drink from time to time. I try to keep it to a minimum. So the fact that I can't even get through a Will Greer, Tommy DeVito game sober, that should say a lot. But yeah, running backs, Ramondre Stevenson and Hasty are going to be under contract next year. Patriots ended up getting JaMychal Hasty when the Jaguars waived him, and Ezekiel Elliott has 1 year left on his deal. You look at the receivers, Kendrick Bourne's a UFA after this year. Juju and Devontae are under contract. Juju's under contract until 2020. Parker's under contract until 2027. Parker initially only had 1 year deal, the 3-year extension. I don't know. Tyron Thornton has 3 years left on his rookie deal. Douglas has been one of the bright spots for New England, but those two have 4 years left on their rookie deals. So all the Patriots tight ends, Hunter Henry, Gesicki, Farrow, Brown, UFAs after this year. Trent Brown, Riley Rife, and Onwenu are UFAs after the season. Cole Strange. You have David Andrews for 1 more year. He's a 2025 UFA. And you have Sidy So, who actually came in. Patriots a few weeks ago after Riley Reif got injured. Patriots basically took Onwenu and they moved him to right tackle, and they tried Sidy So at right guard because So showed the versatility to play both left guard and right guard in the NFLPA Bowl, which is no longer going to exist. But, Patriots also traded for Tyrone Wheatley Jr., who I believe was on the Browns. They traded for Verdarian Lowe, the backup left tackle in the Vikings. So they've added some pieces, but nothing they've done is worth. And I can see why Dan Orlovsky has roasted this offensive line. It's pretty obvious that the Patriots, with their offensive tackle situation, with Brown being inactive, with Riley Rife being inactive, having Connor McDermott at left tackle, whatever they're doing, and then Onwenu at right tackle, whatever they're doing, it just isn't working. It's just not.
And here's the thing. I don't know why they would have injury because the 16th ranked left tackle in the NFL.
He got injured.
Oh, he did get injured?
Yeah.
Okay. That tells you something. We used to hear about every injury from the Patriots. We're not hearing about the crap from the Patriots. It's just like, oh, he's not there. Why? And we used to know everything about the Patriots, but I can tell you right now, and that should also tell you why Kraft is considering firing Bill Belichick after 20 years or something like that. Because if we aren't even hearing about, outside of guys like you, Will, Patriots fans, hearing about injuries to the few top players they have at this point, I think that tells you about how far the Patriots fall in NFL hire.
Well, the Patriots are going to have $76,629,000 to spend in free agency. Patriots are going to have some money. And what do they have for 2025? I'm just curious. Next year.
So they'll have a lot.
Sheesh. Patriots are going to have $265 million in 2025.
Is that when some of the new TV deals come in?
Yeah. And they're going to have $500 million in 2026. So the Patriots are going to have a ton of cap space in the next 2 years. And so if they draft a quarterback on a rookie deal, they should be able to, if they get Caleb Williams or Drake May and they get the right free agents, they're going to have a window to get another Super Bowl, whether it's with Belichick or without him. There's going to be that window, I think, because with all that money, they're going to have the luxury of being super aggressive, which you can't really say about a lot of teams right now.
At the rate this year is going, it may be without Belichick, because if they lose to the Giants, who are one of the most disappointing teams in the NFL this year, I don't know if Belichick survives.
I don't either. And there's some speculation that Belichick's going to leave, and the location for his next team's already been predetermined. Godchaux, Dietrich Wise, Lawrence Guy, Barmore, Keon White, all back next year. Matt Judon's back next year. So is Bentley. So is Tavai. Josh Uche, Mac Wilson, Anthony Jennings are UFAs. McMillan's back next year. Tyson sideline to Judon's. And look at the Patriots on the secondary catcher. Miles Bryant, Cody Davis are UFAs. You still have Adrian Phillips. You still have Jonathan Jones. You still have Jabril Peppers. You'll have a healthy Christian Gonzalez next year. You'll have J.C. Jackson next year. J.C. Jackson's under contract till 2027. When can the Patriots get out of the contract? I'm just curious. Because the Chargers gave him that trade. The Chargers gave him a 5-year contract in 2022 and traded him away to the Patriots after the first year. So it's like, I'm kind of curious. I think Belichick wants the all-time wins record. Then he's going to retire. Because Belichick's 71. That's probably the thought process. Get the all-time wins record. I don't think he's going to try for the all-time regular season win record. He already has the all-time playoff win record. But the all-time regular season record is 328 wins. Belichick's at 300. I don't think he's going to try for that. But I think he could try. I think he is going to try for the all-time total wins record, which he is 16 games away from catching Don Shula. I think he's like 7 or 6 losses away from the all-time loss record as well. But this is what I said about Belichick's ego being so massive. He wants to have the all-time wins record. And he's 16 wins away from that, regular season and playoff.
And that may be, but what if that just, no matter what happens, just set me up for the future? Belichick goes like, okay, I'll set you up for the future. And this is what setting up for the future is, getting that quarterback early in the
All right. Awesome. Perfect. Perfect. Things are finally working now. And we just went over the Patriots. We'll go over some stuff again when we get to the draft simulator if you missed anything on Restream, folks. But the Falcons, they're in an interesting spot, Joey. They have only 620 million to spend. And outside of Drake London and Josh Ali, they lose everybody. They could fifth year tender Kyle Pitts. That would affect them for 2025. Matt Hennessy, Matthews, Lidstrom, McGarry, Bergeron, and Dahlman are all under contract for 2024. So offensive line is not going to be an issue. You're going to have to replace Calais Campbell. And you did trade for Kentavious Street, who's a UFA after this year, but he's mainly a temporary replacement to Grady Jarrett. You do have Zach Harrison. Zach Harrison, I believe he was the Falcons' third-round pick out of Ohio State, rookie. You have Caden Ellis. You have Bud Dupree's a UFA after this year. You're going to have another key day. Anderson. I mean, you can get high up better. Not the Falcons. You can tell.
offensive talent, like he has a as far as big time weapons. He's not utilizing any of them.
Yeah.
Not utilizing. I mean, that tells you right there. This guy, he is not a. He just doesn't have it as an NFL thing. Might be a good defense, good back.
Yeah, but the big against the Falcons is because I felt like Mac Hollins is not enough receivers outside of Drake London. I know the tight ends can be effective in the passing game, but you looked at the stars when picking this team to win the division. I looked at the bigger picture, and it's a big reason. Yeah. Honestly, if you gave Mr. Potato Head a headset, could he do any worse than Arthur Smith? I'm genuinely asking you.
I don't know.
If you gave Mr. Potato Head a headset, could he do any worse than Arthur Smith? The fact that you don't know. Yeah, it's like.
Yeah, because it is hard to screw up this many weapons. Because even if you don't think the number 2 receiver is that great, with this many weapons, that number 2 receiver should be doing well because he's not going to have that much attention on it. So these guys should be doing like a million times better than they are. Even the quarterback
and guys
should be doing well better than they are because of the weapons he has.
If you live in the Georgia area and you want to piss off Falcons fans, the best thing you can do is take a photo of Arthur Smith and put it on a can of Pringles. That is the easiest way to piss off a Falcons fan right now. It's like, yeah.
Or put him on an old milk bottle and say missing. Have you seen him? Almost like I don't even have a head coach.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just out there, doing whatever.
Yep.
I mean, it is so difficult to mess up as bad as Arthur Smith. So that's why I think we both kind of got it wrong.
You got it wrong. I had the Falcons going like Falcons were 5-12 in my preseason. I think I had the Falcons finishing last in the. But to be fair, I
think they're worse than that.
I mean, they're 4-6 right now. This is kind of where I expected them to be at. But they get the Saints in week 12 following the bye week, a game where, if you beat the Saints, you are back in first place. That's how bad that division is, the NFC South this year. It's just really.
Oh, God. Yeah, because I think I had the Falcons with 7 wins.
You had them going 10-7.
They win the division with 6. I did have them at 10.
Yeah.
And I really misjudged that coaching staff. Because I was thinking that the support staff, the support guys on the field were good enough. I wasn't really going to focus on them too much because I thought they were good enough to win several games.
Another receiver and so as high on the Falcons as you were. But the coaching is the real problem with the Falcons. So
it really is. And I think that's what we were all like, okay, they've got some problems. Maybe it's the players and they're holding the coach back. And I think what we're seeing this year is that it's the coaches that are holding the players back. I mean,
Colts are another team we're going to get to in a second here. But yeah, the numbers are good. But the Colts coaching is the exact opposite as Atlanta. Honestly, of the 4 teams we've previewed, we've got the Patriots, the Falcons, the Colts, and the Saints. Colts probably Shane Steichen's holding players accountable when they screw up, which is what the Colts needed in the worst way possible.
I'm loving the Colts right now. I love what the Colts are doing. Even, their franchise quarterback.
Colts have $62 million for next year. They gave Taylor extension before line, which locks him up till 2027. Choose market value enough to warrant a market value. Quarterbacks in the but he's still around. Recap I've done with the Colts, it's been a defensive play, or it's been Zach Moss, Pittman, or Downs. It's been one of those guys. And that's why he's a liability. That's why he's a liability. That's why he's a liability. That's why he's a liability.
The Colts as a whole, I love what they're doing. I love their running game. I think they've got a great 1-2 punch. I love their offensive line. I love what they're doing there. I like their pass rush. I do think they need to upgrade the defensive tackle. I think they need to upgrade their linebacker position.
No, they don't need to upgrade their linebacker position. Come out, buddy. They have Leonard, and they have Zaire Franklin. They don't need to upgrade linebacker. They good.
They do need a third.
I mean, nickel defense. The Colts run a nickel defense. They don't run a 4. They run a 4-2-5.
Yeah.
So they're not going to run. And they have EJ Speed. They have EJ Speed.
No, they're not. But here's the thing. They're not going to run a 4-2-5 every play. They're going to need that third guy. That's one of the weaknesses. Whenever they go out of that nickel or dime, they don't do too well because they have to have that third guy. And what will happen if one of those guys gets injured?
And here's the thing. They don't have their top 2 corners. Julius Brent's injured. Dallas Flowers, their number 2 corner, out for the year. That's a big reason why the Colts have sucked this year defensively. But they do have EJ Speed, Franklin, and Leonard. And you have Grant.
I do like the future of their corner. I don't like that they, like you said, they're injured. But I like what the backup has done. So that gives me hope that the starters are out, the backups are doing well. They could be five the corner.
Okay, Gardner Minshew's market value is $3.5 million. That's about what it should be. Only $3.5 million per year. That's about what it should be. Making right now, so he's not getting. He's getting a pay cut. So making not a raise, not a pay cut, just dead even. Zach Moss, UF.
My favorite part of the Colts, though, gotta be their safety.
We got to talk about. We got to go through position by position. Jonathan, we talked about him. Zach UFA. Michael Pittman Jr. is a UFA. Pittman, I am going to click on his market value because that's a player I'd like to re-sign if possible. I mean, if you can't re-sign him, you're going to have to draft a receiver. You're going to have to draft a receiver. I agree. You have Pittman. I have 6. their number 4 offensive tackle got injured in training camp, but he will have a bigger role at the Colts next year. Buckner will be in a contract year next year as well. Are you gonna have to re-sign him and then just reload through the draft? Is that the thought process here? Pay Michael Pittman, pay Buckner just in the draft? Because 2025, Buckner's extension would not take effect this year. More next UA what he paid till 2020 Odiingbo till 2020. Odiingbo was against sacks eight or from type pieces on the defensive line. Now,
and Woody Pay is a guy I think is on the radar in NFL football.
Yes.
I think he has played in the games I've seen him.
Yes.
He played really well.
Yeah, agreed.
And I thought he played really well this year in the time I saw him before his injury. Well, this. So, I mean, I think he's gone under the radar. I think the Colts have a really good player right there. So I think they've got to keep him under wraps I think they need to give him a new contract, to be honest.
I mean,
just to keep him in the
Woody Pay, you're gonna fifth-year tender him, but you could also give him a new contract too. You pay a new contract as well.
And you can structure that contract to be after the fifth-year tender, or you can rip up a deal, give him the fifth-year tender as the first year of the new deal.
And yes, that Kwity Paye auto, I got 2 rookie autos. I got a Rosso rookie auto and a Kwity Paye rookie auto. That Kwity Paye rookie auto is going to go up in value. I think I got it for like $20. It's probably worth like 60 now, and it might be worth 100 at the end of the year.
But by the time Paye retires, if he keeps on the pace now, improving year by year, you may be looking at a rookie card.
Because it's not just a rookie card; it's a rookie card with his autograph on it. So that makes it worth more.
And if he keeps going up, because remember, he's still a really young guy.
Yeah.
He's and gets 12 sacks a year. I mean, he could be one of the best defensive ends in the game here within a year or so. Guess what? You got yourself a rookie card that may be worth thousands.
Yep. Oh, Zaire Franklin's a 2025 free agent too. So yeah, you got a few players. I don't think you're going to be able to pay Buckner and Franklin if you extend Kwity Paye after the season, which I don't blame you if you do, but if you extend Paye, you're going to have Paye and Ekubom, and that's going to create a situation where you're going to have to let Stewart walk, and you're either going to have to pay Buckner or Franklin. I don't know if you'll be able to pay both of them.
And that's the size of a good team. But also the size of a good team doesn't be able to reload on the draft. I think the Colts are one of the best up-and-coming teams in the NFL right now. I think the Colts, Texans, and Jaguars are going to make up the best division within probably the next 2-3 years. But they got to keep reloading. They got to do well in the draft.
Yeah, because you look at the Colts, they have Julian Blackmon as a UFA. Kenny Moore, their nickel corner, is a UFA. I mean, Rodney Thomas ended up beating out Nick Cross for the other strong safety job across from Blackmon. And he had an interception against the Patriots. He did well. Like, you got to give Rodney Thomas, the former Yale safety, his respect, his due, because he did really well against the Patriots. And I wasn't convinced he was the guy until I saw him against the Patriots, but once I saw him step up like that against the Patriots, okay, he's the guy. So yeah, that's the Colts pretty much. I don't know why the camera keeps turning on and off. Are we even going to be able to do the simulator for the draft? Like, are we even going to be able to show our audience the simulator after this? Final team is the Saints. I am loading the screen here. Yeah, only team with competent coach. The Colts are the old now. Patriots, no. Falcons, no. Colts, yes. And the Saints, no. I mean, Dennis Allen's calling the plays in the defense, not Joe Woods. That's the only thing I can say in defense of the Saints is that Dennis Allen, not Joe Woods, is calling the plays for the Saints defense. That's the
So Dennis Allen is smart enough to keep Joe Woods the hell out of play calling.
Yes. That's what my friend Mitch told me.
That is a plus. My opinion of Allen has just shot up about 1,000%.
Because you thought initially that Woods was calling the plays, which is why you were hesitant to pick the Saints. Now that you know Allen's calling the plays, it's like an objection's been diffused.
Yeah, absolutely. Because because I was befuddled at a couple of those Saints good games this year. I'm like, this isn't. I could not pick the Saints for both. I thought it was an anomaly. Now calling the plays, I'm like, okay, now take away is going to be safety, but did in those couple of games where they played well. It's just so that makes a lot more sense now. I understand it a hell of a lot more. Allen is a like Donald Trump, because remember, Donald Trump has 7 bankruptcies and over 50 business failures. So toxic that he can't get a loan from any bank in the United States. He has to go overseas to get a loan. I mean, I'm starting to think the Saints owner, the Saints current owner, may be in the same category as Donald Trump in that he is so horrible at business and so terrible at money management that nobody's willing to bail him out because he has exhausted all options. $87 million?
87 million over the cap. That's I don't even know. You can't get rid of Carr until 2025. I mean, you could move. I don't want to move Kamara. I mean, Kamara's been good. You could move Michael Thomas. That is a player. Michael Thomas. I mean, Michael Thomas. He threw a brick at a neighbor's car. Didn't get suspended for that, but he threw a brick at a
car. That's stupid, especially when you're making that much money. You're a star.
You're making $14 million this year and $10 million next year, and you're throwing a brick at a car. And Chris Olave's going 70 miles an hour in a 35-mile-an-hour zone, doing his best Henry Ruggs impression, but not to the extreme of Ruggs.
I'm starting to think that when Drew Brees was with New Orleans, Michael Thomas was as clean cut as anybody there. I'm wondering if Drew Brees wasn't in Michael Thomas's ear whenever Thomas started to even think of doing something stupid, and he was just like, dude, don't do it. It's like, and he was kind of like a conscience. Drew Brees is as down to earth as any NFL quarterback I've ever seen in my life. And without Drew Brees, he has been nothing but a screw up. So I'm starting to wonder what the influence more than just on the football field.
Are you?
The fact that he was such a clean cut dude that Michael Thomas wanted to just be that good citizen, and now he's just like, hey, I get to break the cars now.
What? Are you saying that Drew Brees is the angel and Derek Carr is the devil, and they're both basically trying to influence his actions?
No. I just think Drew Brees may have been such a figure that everybody wanted to be at their best when he was around. And
yeah, I can't even click on the players because, okay, Michael Thomas, here we go. Can we get rid of this contract for Michael Thomas? No, we can't. No. Michael Thomas has a cap hit of $10,203,000 and a dead cap of $21,900,000. Cutting Michael Thomas would take the Saints from $87 million over the cap to $98 million over the cap. You're stuck with that contract.
Over the cap, I would say I would have to weigh the potential impact against the team, but when you're 81 over already, there is no debate. I mean, they cannot get
87
over the cap based on that cap.
Yeah. That's stay explained. Jordan 23 17 million 5 probably not fifth year him. You got Bresci on more pieces. DeMario Davis. Let's take a look at DeMario Davis because the contract year next season. Because
I'm not even sure if he cut some of these guys.
I don't want to cut DeMario Davis.
I just think you're going to have to let him walk. I think you're just going to have to let a lot of guys walk and let a lot of these contracts just come off the book.
Yeah, pretty much.
With that, you know there's going to be a lot of dead cap. You're 80-some million over cap. The dead cap's going to be absolutely horrendous.
I want to see how bad. I want to have 25-6 when they're in.
Yeah, because the dead cap on these guys is going to be horrendous. They might just have to eat it and then just let it fall off.
Negative $35 million in 2025. So it's $35 million in 2025. So it's negative $87 million. Negative 26. Hell until 2026.
Some of these teams, I don't know how they can make bad decisions for so many years. I don't know.
I could see the Joker, Heath Ledger's Joker, and Mickey Loomis. Oh, not Mickey Loomis. I think Saints owner that passed away and the Joker are having a conversation at the side the Joker's like, you see where your team is at? You're in capital. You're in capital. Respect to the Bensons. Like, Demario Davis only saves you $5 million against $5 million, $7. But if you release him June 1st, you save $12 million. So Demario Davis is a player that the Saints are probably getting.
I think that's one of the things the NFL did right, is to have that J-first designation period. At one point, but after that June period, get cap on them as you did beforehand.
Yep.
The NFL did right.
I think Tyrann Mathieu, another player that look, as much as we enjoyed breaking down, yes, do a Patriots draft, because what